Chapter 557, Saving People. This chapter is updated by Novels.pl. The black evil chi on the Xuanwu holy source was refined by the light on the yin-yang wooden graph. The evil chi gradually dissipated, turned invisible, and became crystal clear and shining again. Strong holy chi gushed out on the surface of the holy source. After contact with the air, the holy chi instantly condensed into charmingly fragrant droplets. Every drop was a drop of sacred liquid. Taking the sacred liquid would benefit the warriors of the four mortal realms very much. Originally, it had been difficult for Zhang Yuochen to get a drop of sacred liquid. Now, more than 100 drops of sacred liquid were suspended in the air like nectar, gleaming brilliantly. Only the holy chi from the Xuanwu holy source could condense into so much sacred liquid. How much power does the Scent Academy contain? Zhang Yuochen waved his sleeve and gathered over 100 drops into fist-sized blue water polo ball. Then, he swallowed the ball. After swallowing more than 100 drops of sacred liquid at one time, a popping sound came from his body. The genuine chi Zhang Yuochen had consumed recovered completely. Meanwhile, Zhang Yuochen felt like his cultivation had improved a little. If my senior sister swallows the Xuanwu holy source, will she be refined by holy liquid all the time? How fast will her cultivation speed be improved? The old saints would pass on their holy source to the new generation of successors in powerful families after their death. However, powerful saint families would have more than one successor. In order to have more new saints in their families, these families would divide the holy source into several parts. In this way, at least one could reach the realm of the saints. If a powerful saint family could not produce a saint, the family would decline rapidly, and its wealth would be divided by other forces. Cultivating a saint was extremely difficult. Even a little mistake could result in no saints in a powerful family. In many powerful saint families, new saints would be born after an old saint's death. They could break through to the saint realm when they took part of the holy source. Therefore, if a complete holy source was born, many powerful families would fight for such a precious resource. The Cyan Fire Xuanwu holy source was more powerful and precious than other holy sources. If Huang Yanshan could take the holy source, her status in her family would increase greatly. She would become part of the core group of descendants, and she would have a chance at supreme authority in future. Zhang Yuochen looked in the direction of King Jinhuang. After a while, he still did not open the internal space of yin-yang wooden graph in front of King Jinhuang. Although King Jinhuang owed Zhang Yuochen a favor, he also knew that Zhang Yuochen could control the power of time and space. As the saying goes, never relax vigilance against evildoers. Zhang Yuochen and King Jinhuang had only met recently, so Zhang Yuochen did not know what kind of person he was. For now, Zhang Yuochen wanted to keep the secret of the internal space to himself. Zhang Yuochen greeted King Jinhuang, and then he rushed forward, flew thousands of miles away, and dove to the bottom of the sea. After he had completely left King Jinhuang's sight, he opened the door of space and entered the internal space. Huang Yuochen, like a sleeping beauty, lay quietly under the new seedlings of sacred tree with her long, royal blue hair spread on the ground and her eyes gently closed. Fortunately, in the world of the sacred prime tree, Blackie had powerful cultivation. He ignited the wood spirit of the sacred tree and infused Huang Yanshan's body with it to save her life. Zhang Yuochen, if you came back 2 hours late, I'm afraid that I would not be able to keep her alive, Blackie said. Thank you, Zhang Yuochen said. Then, Zhang Yuochen hurried to help Huang Yuochen to take the Xuanwu holy source. Afterward, he sat in front of Huang Yuochen with his legs crossed, holding her hands up tightly. Later, Zhang Yuochen mobilized the Buddha spirit in his body and poured the Buddha spirit into Huang Yanshan's body through his palm. Swoosh! A blue column of light flashed out from Huang Yanshan's body, like a lightsaber passing through her chest and back. Then, dozens of columns of light shot out, centered on the Xuanwu holy source. The columns condensed to form an illusory image of Xuanwu, over 33 meters tall, which wrapped itself around her body. The surrounding air condensed into drops of sacred liquid. At first, there were dozens of drops, then hundreds, then thousands, then tens of thousands. The sacred liquid, like raindrops, completely covered the space around Huang Yuochen. Huang Yuochen began to absorb the holy qi of Xuanwu holy source according to the exercises of the Xuanwu Sutra. The holy qi circulated through Huang Yuochen's meridians. I finally did it. Zhang Yuochen was relieved to know that Huang Yuochen had passed the dangerous period. He slowly withdrew his palm. The power of the Sariera receded like the falling tide. The power in Zhang Yuochen's body disappeared in a flash. A feeling of weakness, pain, and exhaustion flooded over him. His brain became groggy. His eyelids grew heavier and finally closed completely. He fell forward. Suddenly, a beautiful, white hand stretched out from the side to hold Zhang Yuochen's arm. Concerned, Aoxinian said, "Group leader, what's wrong with you? Wake up." Aoxinian had not healed herself. From beginning to end, she stayed next to Zhang Yuochen in case there were any accidents. She saw Zhang Yuochen's face turn pale suddenly, and she knew that it was not good. So, she rushed over and kept Zhang Yuochen from falling. Blackie sashayed over and said evenly, "Girl, do not worry about him. He was hurt badly, and he used the power of Buddhist Emperor Sariera. So, he became very weak." Aoxinian held Zhang Yuochen in her arms and continued to infuse Zhang Yuochen's body with genuine qi. She said eagerly, "You know, the leader has not fainted from a serious injury before. He was really badly hurt this time. Now, what should we do if his injury worsens without the protection of genuine qi?" Blackie said, "For anybody else, this injury would prove fatal. However, Zhang Yuochen is not just anybody. A mark of the gods guards Zhang Yuochen's qi. The dragon pearl guards his body. Unless his head is cut off, no serious injury can kill him." Attracting the cord of the gods was equivalent to having the gods protect the body, which was very beneficial. Simply put, monks had greater life force than ordinary people. Also, because Zhang Yuochen had attracted the cord of the gods 4 times, his vitality was naturally stronger. Because of this, he could cure many injuries by himself without taking pills. Although Zhang Yuochen had been invaded by evil qi, it did not matter much. Even if King Jinhuang had not rescued him, the mark of the gods in his qi would have expelled evil qi from his body. The evil qi could not hurt him at all. Blackie had already gone past, but when he returned, he saw Aoxinian still holding Zhang Yuochen and said, "Tch, why do you care about him so much?" Aoxinian was frozen. She looked away, pursed her lips, and said, "Group leader." "Group leader saved my life." Blackie understood Aoxinian's actions. He laughed, and said, "Ha ha, Zhang Yuochen is indeed very good. I have met several girls who love him. However, Zhang Yuochen has never been tempted by any of them, or he has suppressed his emotions and forced himself not to be tempted by any of them. Some of those girls have already left or have stopped hanging around Zhang Yuochen. I'm afraid it will be difficult for them to see Zhang Yuochen again in the future. Some girls still act as friends. They insist on staying with him. As a result, they suffer a lot. In a word, Zhang Yuochen has a lot of secrets. He is not the charming prince you are looking for. I advise that you stay away from the fire pit to avoid loneliness and sorrow in the future." Aoxinian looked somewhat flustered, and she said, "It's not what you think. I only admire the leader." 3 days later, Zhang Yuochen regained consciousness. He sat up slowly with his hands. His whole body was still weak, but his injuries had recovered a lot. He was almost healed. Before fainting, he vaguely remembered hearing Aoxin's voice. Therefore, Zhang Yuochen did not think much of it. He only thought that when he passed out, Aoxinian had given him some pills. Therefore, his injuries had recovered so quickly. Zhang Yuochen looked around and saw that Aoxinian and the Orange Star Emissary were healing. Huang Yanjun was still wrapped in the illusory image of Xuanwu. She had not woken up. "Stabilize the injury first, and then go out." Zhang Yuochen immediately raised his arms and hands to mobilize the genuine qi in his qi to run 9 circulations through his body according to the operation mode of scripture of Emperor Ming's Empyrean. 4 hours later, Zhang Yuochen's tiredness was swept away and he became fresh. His eyes became sharp. Although his injury had not recovered yet, his power had recovered by 20 to 30%. Zhang Yuochen walked out of the scroll world alone. His feet stepped on the bottom of the sea, and his body rushed out of the water like an arrow from a bow. When Zhang Ruochen came to the island again, King Jinhuang had completely expelled the evil chi from his body. His appearance was dignified and solemn. Wearing broken armor, King Jinhuang stood upright on a black rock with his hands behind his back and looked at the pillar of the vicious sea. The pillar of the vicious sea had been inserted to the bottom of the over 10,000 meter deep sea. So it was silent. King Jinhuang pulled it out of the bloody trench and brought it to where the sea was shallow. He also injected a large amount of holy chi into it, which immediately aroused the vessel spirit of the pillar. The aura of the pillar had become more and more horrible. Even with King Jinhuang's cultivation, he did not dare to approach the pillar in case he was invaded by evil chi again.